Hey, good morning, everybody. I am pleased to have you come into my office here at the house this morning to just share a little bit of time. I know, again, everybody is still kind of staying home a lot, so I want to give you a little bit of time to have a devotion with me this morning. It'd be nice to be there with you in person, but I know that this is another way, another option. I was reading still in the book of Mark this morning as I kind of been walking through this book again, just reading down through it, kind of studying. And what I like to do when I study is I try not to bite off too big of a chunk at one time because my mind goes too many different directions already. And if I get too many things, it's hard for me to really, hear God on something. But if I take a smaller section, a lot of times I'm able to maybe hear Him speak to my mind, my heart, my spirit, whatever you want to call it. Just God opening up my mind to what it may have an application to for the day for me. And as I was reading in the latter part of Mark chapter 2, there's a time when Jesus and His disciples are walking through some cornfields, and it happened to be on the Sabbath day. And as they walked through, they were hungry, and so they grabbed some corn. And yet there was some religious leaders there that had saw them, or I guess were following them or something, and they noticed that they picked corn on the Sabbath day, and it was against the law to work on the Sabbath day. And so they were looking for something to catch the disciples and Jesus doing wrong in. And so they called them on the picking of the corn. And Jesus reminded them, He said, hey, don't you remember, basically, don't you remember the word that you should know that David, in a time when he was in a trouble and on the run, basically, and Abiathar the priest was there, and he went to the temple and ate the showbread that was meant for the priest only. And basically he said, he was teaching them this: listen, you cannot continue in this mindset that everything has to be in the way that man thinks it needs to be in. God has us in this position where we're at right now as a way of teaching us maybe we need to get out of our mold in our mind about how we do church. We all have for a long time now, just gone to church and think people should come to us, and we kind of get in that mode. But now this is sort of changing our mindsets, our ideas, our dreams about how to ministry to one another and how to build each other up. And so maybe that's a good thing. So, Romans 8:28 says we know all things work together for the good of those who love God and to those who are called according to His purpose. And so even though we don't like this time necessarily, there may be some good things. There are some good things that we can learn from it. Over my shoulder, there's right here is a little barn, kind of out of some barn wood that I made one time for Shelby many, many years ago after being married about 15 years. And there's a little poem underneath it that I wrote. And in that little barn, you can see right there's a picture of me and her at our wedding. Shelby and I at the cake, about to cut the cake. And then in each one of these holes, if I can get it right, are my kids. And that's all that we had at that time. Brooke, Heather, Ryan, me and Shelby in my little family. And the little poems about us still standing through all the time that we've been together, through the storms of life, through the difficulties, through the changes. And maybe you think, well, that's great. At that point, you have that little close-knit family. But you know what? I can't just live in that family barn anymore because I have a much bigger family now. Each of my kids have now been married. I have 4 grandkids. I have 3 awesome in-laws, I guess you'd say. I call them my kids already, but they married into our family. Two sons-in-law and one daughter-in-law, who I look at as like my kids. And so our barn has gotten bigger. And now when we look at this idea of us being able to adapt in ministry the way God would have us to adapt, and not to become legalistic and locked in, we understand that, man, our barns have to grow. Our minds have to grow. He said, look, there's one thing we don't change. We don't change the word of God. We don't change our doctrine. We don't change the fact that we're saved, we're sinners, and we're saved by grace through faith, not of ourselves. It's only through Jesus Christ. We don't change that, but we do change possibly the way we minister. And so this week, some of you may have a chance to minister to somebody in a different way. I encourage you to go ahead and do that. Please call somebody. Also, Heather Gillette had an amazing idea that she's working on. And she has some material that her mother had left at her house. And she's going to use that to make masks. She's gotten instructions from the medical field about how to do that. They're willing to take them. And so if you have some elastic at home, or if you can sew, she could use your help to be able to do that. If you'll give me a call sometime, I can give you her number and then put you in contact with that and get it going in direction. And so she's thinking out of the box there, and I want to applaud her for that and just say, hey, that's a great way to look at ministry. And so today, as you go throughout the day, maybe you have an opportunity to come upon a few places where you need to pick a little corn, like these disciples, and you see there's opportunity for ministry. There's opportunity to feel a hunger, a spiritual hunger or emotional hunger inside of somebody. Take the time to do it. May not be the traditional way that we minister at church and in a classroom type thing, but it's a great way to minister. So I love you today. Stay safe, but stay connected. Call somebody, check in. And don't let yourself get down and discouraged. Read the Word of God. Do some things that you maybe keep your mind occupied and maybe keep you in touch with other people. But anyhow, it's good to be able to, I don't see you, but it's good to talk with you this morning. And I hope it's a great day for you. God bless you.